There is something nobody taught you in school, not because it was hidden, but because nobody had the words for it. And yet, you have felt it, more than once, in moments so specific, so perfectly timed that you stood there in silence, unsure whether to laugh or cry or simply sit with the weight of what just happened. This is about those moments. Think back. Someone crosses your mind, someone you have not thought about in months, maybe years. No reason, no trigger, just suddenly, there they are, in your head, vivid and unexplained. And then your phone lights up. Their name. How many times has that happened to you? Once you could dismiss, twice maybe. But there comes a point where dismissing it starts to feel dishonest, where the math stops adding up, where coincidence starts to feel like a word we use when we run out of better ones. Or this. You wake up and something feels off. Not sick, not tired. Something deeper. A weight sitting in your chest that has no name and no reason. You go about your day trying to shake it, and then the call comes. The message arrives. And suddenly that nameless weight had a name all along. It just arrived before the news did. Science has explanations for some of this. Pattern recognition, emotional memory, subconscious processing. And maybe that accounts for part of it. But does it account for all of it? Because some of these moments don't feel like your brain connecting dots. They feel like something else entirely. Like the dots were already connected, and you were just finally allowed to see them. There are things people experience and never speak about, not because they are ashamed, but because they don't know how to say it without sounding like they've lost their mind. You walk into a place for the first time, a city, a room, a street you have never been on, and something in your body says, "I know this." Not déjà vu in the light, dismissible sense, something heavier, something that makes you slow down and look around like you're trying to remember something you were never supposed to forget. Or you meet someone, a stranger, and within minutes, sometimes within seconds, something in you registers this person as significant. Not romantically, not logically, just significant. Like the meeting mattered before you understood why. And then the smaller things. The number that follows you for days. The word that appears in 3 different conversations in a single afternoon. The song that comes on at exactly the moment you needed to hear it. The sentence a stranger says to you, meant for themselves, that answers a question you never asked out loud. At some point, the question stops being whether this is real. The question becomes, what does it mean that it keeps happening? Dreams are where this gets complicated, because most people approach dreams looking for a literal translation. They want to know what the symbol means, what the figure represents, whether the dream predicts something specific. And that's where the confusion starts. Dreams don't speak that language. Dreams speak in texture, in feeling, in images that don't quite make sense but leave something behind, an emotional residue that follows you into the morning, into the afternoon, sometimes into the week. Think about the dreams you actually remember, not the ones that faded before breakfast, the ones that stayed, the ones you still think about years later, the ones that felt less like something your mind invented and more like something your mind received. What if the distinction matters? During the day, your mind is occupied. Notifications, conversations, decisions, noise, an endless stream of input that keeps the surface of your awareness full and churning. There is simply no space for anything quiet to get through. But in sleep, the noise drops. The filters that govern what you allow yourself to perceive, they weaken. And in that quiet, in that unguarded space between one day and the next, something different becomes possible. Maybe not every dream carries meaning, but some do. And somewhere beneath all the rationalizing, you already know which ones those are. Because the ones that matter don't dissolve in the light. They settle in. They wait. There are stories people carry quietly. The dream of a place, described in detail to a partner, a friend, a journal, and then, months later, standing in that exact place for the first time, recognizing every corner of it. The face that appeared in a dream before the meeting ever happened. The feeling in the chest that something was wrong with someone you love, hours before the message arrived. The moment you were about to walk out the door and something stopped you. Not a thought, not a reason, a force. Subtle but clear. And later you found out what would have happened if you'd gone. People experience these things and then spend years trying to explain them away. They reach for probability. They reach for coincidence. They reach for anything that makes the experience feel smaller than it actually was. Because if it isn't coincidence, then what is it? That's the question most people are not quite ready to sit with. Because the answer changes things. It changes how you move through the world. It changes what you pay attention to. It changes the weight you give to your own inner experience. And that kind of change is not always comfortable. What if the universe doesn't communicate in instructions? What if it communicates in alignment? A door appears, but you have to walk through it. A person arrives, but you have to recognize them. A feeling rises in you, but you have to trust it enough to act. Maybe the universe doesn't force. Maybe it arranges. Maybe it creates the conditions, places the elements, opens the moment, and then steps back. Think about the people you almost met. The stranger whose eyes you held for 1 second too long before looking away. The conversation that almost started and didn't. The person you felt drawn to and ignored because the timing felt wrong or the logic wasn't there. People say if it was meant to be, it will find a way. But what if it already did? What if it already found the way, and the only thing missing was your willingness to step into the moment that was offered? That reframes everything. Because it means life is not simply something that happens to you. It is something that happens with you. Something that requires your participation, your attention, your willingness to be present in the moments that arrive quietly and leave quickly if you don't meet them. Science is not the enemy of this conversation. Science is extraordinary. It has mapped the physical world with a precision that would have seemed miraculous a century ago, and we should be grateful for it. But science measures what it currently knows how to measure, and the boundary of what can currently be measured is not the boundary of what exists. For centuries, things were experienced before they were explained. Forces were felt before they were named. Patterns were lived before they were understood. The history of human knowledge is largely the history of things that were once dismissed and then confirmed. So when someone says there is no proof, that may be entirely true, but no proof is not the same as impossible. It may simply mean the tools don't yet exist, the models haven't been built, the language hasn't been developed for something that human beings have been quietly experiencing for as long as human beings have existed. This is not a conversation about belief versus science. It is a conversation about humility, about the possibility that human experience contains more than our current frameworks can hold, and that sitting with that possibility, rather than dismissing it, might be where something real begins. What if the universe has never been silent? What if we have simply been too loud to hear it? The people who seem to receive more signs, more moments, more of those charged and inexplicable experiences, they are not special. They are not chosen. They are paying attention. They have made space. They have slowed down enough, quieted enough, become present enough that what was always there finally has somewhere to land. Imagine what your life would look like if you actually listened to the dreams that stay with you, to the feelings that arrive without explanation, to the repeated symbols and words and numbers and moments that keep finding you no matter how many times you look away, to the people who appear at strange times and leave you feeling like something shifted, even if you can't explain it. What if your life has not been a series of unconnected events? What if it has been a conversation, ongoing, patient, persistent, that you have been too distracted to fully hear? Maybe dreams are not just the mind processing the day. Maybe some of them are the mind finally quiet enough to receive something. Maybe intuition is not the opposite of intelligence. Maybe it is a form of intelligence we were never taught to develop, never given permission to trust. Maybe coincidence is just the name we give to patterns we aren't ready to understand yet. And maybe, just maybe, the universe has been trying to reach you for a long time. Not to control the outcome, not to script every detail, but to nudge, to warn, to open a door and see if you walk through it. So the next time something feels different, a dream that stays, a sign that keeps returning, a person who arrives at exactly the wrong time that turns out to be exactly the right time, a moment that feels charged in a way you cannot explain, don't reach for a rational explanation so quickly. Sit with it. Let it breathe. Ask yourself what it might be trying to say. Because the strangest experiences of your life were probably not meaningless. They were probably messages. And maybe the people who see this life differently aren't lost. Maybe they just finally started listening. What if the universe has already spoken to you, and you called it coincidence?